When my wife cheated, I was absolutely devastated, near suicidal, but I survived. Here's how. I hope, with all my heart, this helps someone who's hurting or trying to decide how to get through the pain of infidelity. First, for me this broke into two things I needed to accept and address. Those two things were: 1. My insecurity. 2. My perception of who she was versus who she really was. My insecurity: I felt like if I had been better somehow, she wouldn't have been tempted to cheat on me. It took me a long time to realize there was nothing wrong or substandard about me. I am who I am, warts and all. And if she didn't like who I was, cheating on me would not solve the problems between us. But while I was in the thick of it, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was somehow less than worthwhile. Since then, I have done a ton of work with professional help on my self-esteem. I have discovered why I felt less than, and I have also discovered why I had a shaky sense of who and what I am. In a sort of adjacent issue, I discovered that I have absolutely no control over other people. My insecurities led me to believe that if I could possess someone through marriage, that I owned them, that I had a right to expect them to behave in certain ways. I have learned that part of the problem was that I believed her promises to me, our marriage vows, were somehow binding. They weren't. She was always free to do whatever she pleased. Don't get me wrong, if she couldn't commit to those promises, she probably shouldn't have made them, but people change. She may have truly meant it when she made the promises she made, but later changed her mind. It would have been nice if she would have said so, but even saying so or not is a choice she gets to make without any input from me, because I don't own her. My perception of who she was versus who she really was. I believed I knew her. I believed that knowing who she was enabled me to predict how she would act, and that I could rely on my perception of who she was to keep me safe from emotional upset. I was wrong, mainly about who she was. I thought she was someone who would never cheat on me, someone who couldn't cheat on me. As far as I knew, she had never cheated on anyone else with whom she had been in a relationship. But her cheating showed me she was someone who could cheat on me. After the cheating, I was confronted with the fact that the person I was with looked and sounded exactly like the person I thought I had known. She had all the same mannerisms. She styled her hair the same. She wore the same clothes. She liked the same foods. She watched the same TV shows. In every way, she was the same person I thought I had known. Except that she wasn't. The person I was with after she cheated on me was a person who was interested, sexually, in others. She was a person who couldn't keep her marriage vows. She was a person who could lie to me. She was a person who didn't mind inflicting the pain of infidelity on me. For me, that made her a completely different person. But she looked, sounded, acted, smelled just like the person I was in love with. That's what made it so hard, so confusing. So hard to come to grips with and get over. It took me a long time to realize I had just been wrong about her, which really fed back into my insecurities. If I couldn't tell the difference between someone who loved me and someone who didn't mind hurting me, where did that leave me? How could I ever trust my own judgment again? Truth be told, I am still, at some level, in love with that person. I just accept that I have never actually met that person yet. The person who looked like the person I was in love with wasn't actually the person I had fallen in love with. In the end, I decided I didn't want to be with the person she actually was. That's not the way it would have to be for everyone, that's just the decision I made at the time. I could see that I was beginning to mistreat her because of my pain and anger. I didn't want to be the person I was becoming. I could see, dimly at the time, that I wasn't going to be able to get over what she did unless I moved on without her. Under a different set of circumstances, I believe it might be possible for someone to accept the things that were ultimately true and find a way to fall in love with the other person based on who they actually are rather than who they were perceived to be. I have a friend who was able to make this his reality after his wife was unfaithful, so I know it's possible. To tie all these things together, here is where I am now. I have learned to trust my judgment again, but not in the same way. When I enter into a relationship with someone now, I do it with my eyes open. I don't believe that the relationship will give me ownership rights over them. I recognize my own responsibility in loving and respecting myself and not expecting that to be provided by someone else. I recognize that they are not giving up their agency as a human being as we enter into a relationship. I recognize that all relationships end either in breakup or the death of one of the parties. I recognize that in almost every case, one person will be done with a relationship before the other, and that's okay. It sucks if I happen to be the person who's not ready for the end, but if I truly love someone, then I should want what's best for them through their eyes. If I can't do that, then I don't love them. I want to possess them. I want them as my property. That's not love. I recognize that two people can love each other, but their togetherness can be toxic. I now have several exes who I am great friends with, but over our time together as lovers we discovered that it wasn't good or constructive for either of us to be together. I hated what happened in the infidelity and subsequent divorce. It hurt so much. Bad in a way that can never be described to a person who's never been through it. But at the same time, I am so grateful for it. That pain taught me things about myself, relationships, and love that I could never have learned in any other way. I've never remarried, I probably won't ever, but I now know what a good partner will look and feel like when I meet her. I still make bad choices here and there of partners, but I now have the courage to end relationships that have no chance of flourishing, or are destructive in some way. Story 2, wife had EA with her high school friend. I posted this story in infidelity, but have updates, and that was probably the wrong place to look for balanced approach to advice. So here goes again. A few months ago I found out my wife was having an emotional affair with her friend from high school. They were texting for about a year, but things didn't get in the realm of boundary crossing until a month before I caught her. I confronted her one day about her texting him so often, and she got weirdly defensive. I found out the next morning she was flirting with him over Facebook Messenger and sending each other pics. She also dropped by his house when she was on her way to go shopping. She was there roughly 30 minutes. He lives with his parents too. She said she never slept with him, and she said she admits what happened was cheating, but the physical cheating did not happen. According to her at the time, it was flirting and pictures only. I had initially asked to see her Facebook so I could recover the deleted messages and verify she's telling the truth. She refused outright but said she would do marriage counseling. Her reasoning was she didn't want me to obsess over every little thing they said and get hurt. 3 months later I gave her an ultimatum and said I am gonna look at them whether she likes it or not. I said she's welcome to leave if she has a problem with it. She was pissed but agreed to stay and let me see them. Later that night, before I went to read them, I gave her a hall pass to admit to anything I might see on my own that she has not already disclosed. She had admitted to saying they loved each other. She said, he said it first, and she just went along with it because she liked the attention and felt resentment towards me at the time for all of our past issues. But she still maintained nothing physical happened. She said she was stringing him along by saying I love you stuff. So I went on with pretending to read the message threads. The truth is I cannot see them at all. I was bluffing. As far as I know, deleted FB messages cannot be restored. But she does not know that. She downloaded her FB data and gave it to me. She broke down crying again since I pretended to read them, saying how awful of a person she is, how embarrassing and terrible she acted. She said she loves me and not him, and now's aside from hating herself she also hates him. She has not acted super remorseful since all this started until recently. Once I found out about the I love you messages, she has seemed more open and honest. Every day recently she has gone above and beyond trying to make me happy. She's made me stuff, talked with me about it when I feel down. She's trying to have time with me almost every day, and is super attentive. My gut seems satisfied that the I love you is the worst of it, but I still have my doubts. I'm curious if I am being too accepting with her infidelity and willing to move on. She volunteers her phone always now for me to look through, and we are really engaged with marriage counseling. I did undervalue her as a wife before. I basically treated her like she was just there for the past couple of years. So I do share some blame in our marital strife. I just don't want to be made the fool again. He was a mutual friend of ours, so the betrayal is double. P.S. Before anyone says go to his house and confront him, believe me, I would love to. But last thing I need is another felony and to go back to prison for beating down some little punk who has to take advantage of a friend's marital problems to try and get a girl. Redditors' reactions. Redditor 1, she wants to repair things, but do you want to repair things? If you both do the hard work you can save or make your relationship better. EAs can be really hard to recover from cause it wasn't a one-night stand but a long process to get where you are now. The friend needs to be blocked and gone. Op answer, I agree. The dude has been long blocked from her phone. I made it clear to him he messages her again, he's a dead man. I'm willing to put it the work, but I worry I am being too soft. I also worry I will be played again. Redditor 2, anytime an affair happens when the WSAP are in close proximity, and the relationship is lengthy, there's a high likelihood that it's physical. Unless you have compelling evidence that it's not the case, need not rule that out. You discovered the affair. She did not end it nor did she voluntarily disclose. I'd be very weary in thinking that she is all of a sudden remorseful and wanting you. Feels to me like she is in damage control mode. So she now loves you and wants you? Why? Why all of a sudden? Embarrassed? Afraid to lose what you provide? Op answer, although I do not disagree with your take 100%, it ignores my personal experience of people being dynamic in emotions. I've been a cheater before and know that I personally would never cross that line again. Also, it's not like staying with me is the easy course for her. She knows it's gonna be a hard road. It's not like now all of a sudden she loves me. She married me when I was locked up and has been by my side for 16 years. Redditor 3, she didn't need to physically spend time with him to exchange I love you. She's blowing smoke up your ass. Redditor follow-up, she might have been blowing more than that. Op, you may not like to consider this, but it doesn't even need to be time for it to be a physical affair. And it kinda walks and talks like a duck, so to speak. Also, you should discuss with her what would have happened if you hadn't caught her, because she might have gone much further later on than she already has. And that truth needs to be out there. That's part of showing accountability in this case. Redditor 4, just to be clear, she slept with him. Op answer, although I'm sure it's possible. You getting a broad overview and thinking you know is not the most compelling evidence. If she did though, his DCK must not be as good as mine for her to instantly throw him away to save our relationship. Must have been a small guy. S-time does not bother me as much as the I love you part. Redditor 5, I did something similar with the bluffing. My husband swore to me it was an emotional affair. I told him I knew they had S-time because of the texts I had seen. He finally admitted the S-time. I was bluffing. Redditor 6, if they were together alone for 30 minutes there is about 95% probability of sexual acts oral, or otherwise. Adults don't go and take the risk of being alone just to talk. It would best for you to assume that worse has happened, because it will hurt you much more when you find out later. So don't set yourself up for that. BTW, people hardly say I love you to each other unless already sexually bounded. Redditor follow-up, people hardly say I love you to each other unless already sexually bounded. This here.